Hello, folks. Welcome to another edition of Unfiltered, where we say freely, because there are no filters on this show, man. And my guest, let me go straight to my guest. My guest is one of my many nephews. You know, I'm at that stage. You're either my son or my nephew. my guest is one of my nephews. He's a very, very dynamic person. Even if you haven't seen him, you have heard of him. If you haven't heard of him, then you don't live in the world. Show some love for my nephew, Oliver Barker Vormawor. Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm very happy to be here as well.
I'm glad you're happy to be here. I'll ask you one interesting question, but later.
Yeah, of course.
My first question, man, are you a rebel?
No, I don't know what that means. I mean, to be honest, I think if it is a person who is passionate about a change in the status quo, then that's rebellion. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I suppose to some extent as well, a rebel is also somebody who the establishment doesn't like. Mm-hmm. And I make a habit of not being liked by the establishment. So perhaps, yeah.
Which in your view is the establishment, the government or the party?
No, I mean, I think it's the elite way of doing things. I think it's perhaps even more a culture than anything. There's an individualism that has become so embedded in the Ghanaian way of doing that it is not mindful about, social injustices that surround us, has become immune in some regard to the poverty that is all around us, has become immune to how we take from the state to the detriment of, so many people who are not able to afford. So that way of doing is one that I constantly want to rebel against, I guess.
Is there something that one can say, oh, but that's natural, everywhere there's poverty, there's always whatever it is, we have the rich ones and the poor ones, poverty is with us. Is that
no, I
something you believe in?
I think that poverty is completely man-made.
Poverty is man-made?
Yes, absolutely. There's nothing natural about it. There are several societies that have figured a way in which to create a socially just society. You go to Scandinavia, they're very intentional about how no one left behind, that those who have must understand that they have a responsibility to ensure that we all have a particular standard of living. Those things are important to me. But it's also a virtue thing, right? So it's constantly in Ghana, you would have news of persons who are seemingly well-to-do that still go to the States, take scholarships, take things that are supposed to go to persons who are less fortunate. So there's no end to the greed, I would say. And that's not natural. I think that there's a particular way of cultivating a society that produces those kinds of outcomes. And we can go against the grain in terms of that as well.
Looking at Ghana, has the bus left the station? Do we have time now to say we are reversing things and we're going to get that kind of equality you're talking about? Has the bus left the station?
I mean, I think that we've so gone far afield in terms of the wrong direction, but it doesn't mean that the bus can never turn around. It just means that it will take us a longer time to come to equilibrium to then start making the journey that we need to. So, and I love the bus analogy. So it means that there's a number of us in that bus who are screaming stop, and others who are cheering the driver on, and that's kind of what the scenario in which we have. So, I mean, the life of a nation is longer and perhaps even richer than maybe the individuals that embody the nation. That no matter how long it takes, like Martin Luther King said, the moral arc of the universe would always bend towards justice. So it might take forever, but we have to get them. We have to find a way to get the bus to reverse course.
Are the people in the bus complaining, or they're like, hey, it's okay? The way I see it is that the bus is definitely going the wrong way. The people do not seem to care that much. Or am I wrong?
Somebody said something that I've always laughed about. I think our mutual friend Felicity said, maybe when you think about it, Ghanaians were not complaining about being under colonial rule. It's Nkrumah that came to disturb us with his ideas of freedom.
I like that analogy.
Exactly, right? No, but I do think that we underestimate the extent of elite power that is able to convince people that this is as good as it gets. This is the bus you need to be on. And that people then become comfortable with it. Or those that even know that the jig is up and don't believe this, well, they are hungry. And there's some people who have hoarded food while we are on the bus going, that they will be then told that, well, you either believe that the bus is going in the right direction or you have no food. So because then there's so much capture of power, let's think about even in terms of what you are doing now, right? If you look at the media space, so much of our media is controlled by politicians, by persons who have to do, that you have to be able to create something completely out and then be able to push narratives that are counter what those who hold power and those who control the media houses are churning out and making you believe every day in, day out. So that's important in terms of how we understand the social conditioning of people who have been made to believe that this is all the best we're going to get. Now, there are some people who have had the benefit of being in other countries or have had different experiences who are like, wait a minute, this is not it.
Yeah.
Right? But you are in a society where you don't control the levers of power. That people then have come to understand that it is better to keep these things this way because it favors a couple of people, it favors some individuals rather than, and who cares? I mean, who sees the direct connection between, corruption and the fact that a hospital was not built, right? It's not the same as picking plantain on somebody's farm, I would say. So that's where the challenge for us is, getting, those who can act with us to believe that the bus is going in the wrong direction. But it is in that we are not alone, I would say, because historically the people have been, it is difficult for the people to mobilize. So when you look at history, I mean, it was in the 18th century almost that the French Revolution happened, after many years of opulence and, and even the monstrosity that exists at Versailles, that it took a long while. You have to even go through the age of enlightenment for people then to read more, to question more, before people kind of believed, wait a minute, this person was not actually appointed by God, and we can actually go against what they've been telling us. So that age of enlightenment, I don't think necessarily has happened for us. I think that the number of people the critical mass of people who are willing to question, to push back, hasn't happened. And it can be extremely frustrating for the rest of us.
Do you see it happening?
Well, maybe not in my lifetime.
You're a young man.
I always say that I have the affliction of the young man, that I want change to happen now and it must happen in my lifetime. But perhaps what a sober reflection is telling me that there's a level of selfishness to believe that change must happen on my clock.
On my watch, yeah.
And perhaps my only role here is to be the middle belt between that new generation that might come, that was given a reason to believe that those who were before them fought for and believed, and and even in terms of my own work and advocacy, I rely a lot of some of the things that happened during the independence years as a reason to continue to believe that maybe change can happen. So I tell those stories a lot. It's not by accident that I go by the moniker Sajifo. It's drawing on something. So hopefully that persons also can look upon what we have done, and that may give them the impetus to continue to fight.
Currently, look at where we are now. We have been talking about change, and it's if that's how you want to define who a rebel is. A rebel is somebody who is not totally happy with the status quo. Yeah. What is the status quo now?
I think that the Fourth Republic in particular was intentional about creating a particular kind of elite politics, that believing that that's what will keep the coup d'etat from not happening. So if you have a particular consensus of individuals who believe that this system is serving them well, you chop small, you go, I chop small, you go. So we are all fine. I might go in opposition for 8 years, but I'll eventually come back and I'll chop again. So
that's what we have now. That's how you say it.
Yeah, that's kind of how we have now. But the vast majority of Ghanaians are have-nots. Like, they can't access the Ghana Scholarship Secretariat unless they go to somebody to give them a complimentary card to sign at the back. You have to go to somebody to get their name to go and assess this. Even in terms of the schools, their protocol admissions, all those non-competitive ways in which elites secure advantage for themselves consistently are some of the ways which are critical barriers for people to be able to lift themselves up. And that's what I'm worried about. And I don't see any reason why a country like Ghana cannot cater for its citizens to an appreciable level if we are mindful about it.
I've seen you very, very strongly in the forefront of this whole Galamsey issue.
Yeah.
What is it about Galamsey? I rightly or wrongly think that there's a lot of misinterpretation. I don't know about you. That gold mining, as it were, there's nothing wrong with mining gold if you're going to take it out and use it for the benefit of your community and the nation.
Yeah.
What is wrong is that in the process, because we are not doing it well, we are destroying waters, river bodies, trees, everything.
Yeah.
What is your particular...
for somebody like me who is pro social justice, that young people or poor people or people without means need to have a fair shake. There's almost a schizophrenic relationship that I have with Galamsey, in that I recognize maybe on a poetic level, this is the affliction that the masses are afflicting us all with. The years of neglect, the years of not being intentional in ensuring that towns like Obuasi that have given, years and years to people to mine from them, never getting their fair shake from those, then coming back to revenge and then going against the environment. And in the end, we all suffer. So in that, there's an element of state dysfunction that we're paying the price of. But it's easy to be poetic and flowery about it. But what we're staring at is, serious ecological danger and harm that we have to be able to find a way to reverse course. Now, what that means is that either we kind of find a mechanism by which the existing big mining companies are made to bear the burden of the social cost of those communities that have been feeling left behind, that are turning to this, or that we find a way to address the economic anxieties of the people that feel that Galamsey is the only way for them to be able to, for a state that doesn't care. And if you travel particularly in some parts of the Middle Belt and all those areas, these are places where there's no decent jobs to go. Everybody is told that go and farm. And then you go and farm, and we are flooding the market with cheap, cheap rice from Thailand and all these places, cheap chicken from Ukraine, cheap products from China that they can't even sell. Right? Just a couple of days ago, the National Buffer Stock says that they're going to buy grains from farmers who can't sell their produce because the cost at which they're being forced to sell is cheaper than what they have spent to produce this. So being forced into agriculture is not economically viable for them. Those who have lived their lives growing cocoa are seeing the cocoa board go into huge debts, people stealing all kinds of money, like even in terms of recent scandals regarding the cocoa board, that our cocoa farmers are some of the poorest across the world in terms of something they have given their lives to. So, of course, people are cutting down cocoa trees and saying, take my lands and mine, because the state has failed in that regard. But those who have been at the forefront of the state failure, I see them turn around and say that we need a shoot-to-kill policy, which I don't agree with. So we have to be nuanced about the conversation. And I understand the present risk and danger of what we are facing. But the politics created this. The very system that we are refusing to reform has created the kind of ecological mess that we are facing, and they don't have any answers to know how to deal with. So when we are doing this and knocking on the door, we are demanding those answers that they have not able to produce. That we are laying the blame at their doorsteps and saying that you must fix this.
How will you fix it? What would you suggest is the way to go now? Haven't gone into it this deep.
Yeah.
I hear over 4 million people have their livelihood tied to this so-called illegality.
Yeah.
I never expected, or I never deluded myself that the fight against illegal gold mining or Galamsey was going to be an event. Definitely, there's no magic wand. The decay has eaten so much over the last 8 years that it's going to take a lot of work to be able to overcome it. And I didn't expect that in 18 months we would declare victory in the fight. As the livelihoods of about 4 million Ghanaians is on small-scale mining. And so it's going to be a process. It's not going to be an event. But we will not give up. We have a determination to get on top of it.
How is there a way out of this?
Yeah. So first of all, the social cost of absorbing that 4 million and caring for them requires that there must be more austerity at the top level. So a vast majority of our resources are used to service that 71 class of people. That's a lot of money that can be directed into social causes. There's so much money that is lost in corruption, and that's why I'm a big proponent of oral, that people must pay for this so that we can find the money to deal with how we can do better for these people. But also it means that our economic, our natural resources must be differently structured. We have a mechanism by which, Accra politicians sit in Accra. And I always say that Accra has a colonial relationship with the rest of the country. That people are sitting in their farms, and then somebody shows up from Accra and says, I have a piece of paper that I've given me your land as a mining lease, so I'm displacing you. That's it's injury that we haven't figured out how to solve. So those, mining granting processes that does not involve the people We must reform that. So there's not a quick fix to this, you know. Then also in terms of the concessions that we're given and those who are being brought on to come and mine these, we give them too much sweetheart deals. So many times, you know, even some of the officials that are supposed to be negotiating for the Republic are on the payroll of this company.
Yeah.
So we are negotiating against our interest. So the problem is holistic. We created a, you know, the French would say clusterfuck of problems that we have to be intentional about how we unravel it. And it has to be a painful process because we are gutting down things that the system has held dear and makes the elite survive in Accra and live in the kinds of houses and property they own. You know?
You said something quite interesting. So basically, it's to do a lot with the amount of resources we have as a nation, and how we are distributing the resources.
Absolutely. I think that if you have left people for so long and you say that fend for yourself, there's so much times the person can go on the river Pra and not come up with any fish that the person will accept their hunger and be like, this is my lot in life. They'll look at other means, right? There's so much time that people can go into a farm and lose half of their produce and then decide that I'm going to continue to do this. To the extent that our survival is dependent on people accepting the state of perpetual poverty, then it's a fragile system that we have created. They're going to wake up and say that the jig is up and say that, no, I'm not. There's no reason why my poverty should subsidize your life. I'm going to do something, then we all die, we die. So that's kind of where we have created. So there's a moral consciousness about it that we have to accept. First of all, to have the hard conversation that how did we get here? It's not just bad people waking up and say that to hell with the environment. People want to make money. But don't forget as well, even as I say that it is a revenge of the have-nots, it is not entirely true because even the elites are those who are getting the concession, those who are importing the excavators, so that their way of plunder even goes to that extent that they are not sufficient, it's not enough what they have. They must again do this at the detriment of all of us. Yeah.
So it's not that these are saying, oh, these are just poverty-stricken people. They are being backed by
they're
those
absolutely with capital by persons who want more and making them possible to do this. Because we have always had artisanal mining. And everywhere in the world, the systems have allowed artisanal mining to continue because it's done at a scale where it's subsistence level. People are able to cater for themselves and their family. The relationship or the balance between the environmental consequences and this is so low. It is when there's an influx of capital with the chanfan, with the excavators coming in, with those who are able to afford for Chinese to come in and man these concessions, that we then created this environmental problem. But when it stayed at a level where people could not finance that heavy machinery to do this, we were fine. We found the balance and we lived with it.
Now I hear it's not illegal, but you have to go through processes to bring excavators.
With regards to excavators, we're enforcing the law that you must get the permits before the excavator is put on a ship. That is what the law has been, but it was not followed. And so they let the excavator land before they come and ask the Ministry of Transport for a permit. And so we've informed all the dealers that you cannot load an excavator onto a ship until you have gotten a permit.
Is that part of a very effective solution, or is there no work done?
So far, the port authorities are telling us that one of the highest things we're importing now is excavators. We're not using them for road construction. We're not using them for vast farm projects. We're using them for one purpose only. And we've watched it happen, consistently, and we've brought them in, that there was no point where we said that, okay, we know where these are going, and so we must say stop to them. We didn't stop the importation. We could have, right? So it's almost like a self-afflicted harm. Like we're seeing these things happen in real time, and we're not taking any policy measures to stop them. So now we have flooded the system with it. We don't know how then to be able to keep track of them. Even when we try to put trackers on some of them, the claim that they were taking them to Togo before they realized they disappear, the tracker disappears on the road. And let's be honest, there's an element of we know where it is going, but we blink our eye and pretend like we don't know where it's going to end up in many respects. So that is happening across board. Then there's also the importation of the kind of mercury that is being brought in. So we know the kind of things that are being brought in. Then also a lot of the Galamsey sites rely on fuel. So there's a lot of, OMCs that are supplying these places that if we were stopping them, putting fines on them, that unless you can verify that this is a concession that has a license, you cannot supply those places. So that everybody, we create responsibility across the Galamsey value chain. So those who are supplying them with fuel, those who are selling equipment and spare parts to them and all of those, we have to regulate and also enforce regulation downstream. It's the only way we can stop it, I think.
Now, the interesting thing is people like you, me, others, we are so disturbed because we see it differently. We see the harm.
Yeah.
We'll probably hit Accra streets and go on a demonstration. Yeah. How effective is it? Is it symbolic? Is it having any?
Yeah. The demonstration is a frustrated man's response to a system that won't listen.
Repeat that.
It's a frustrated man's response to a system that
won't listen.
Yes.
Okay.
Because if you have the ear of people, you won't go on the streets because you can dialogue. You can point this out. Academic can say that this is what we are publishing. This is what we are seeing. Policy will respond. Implementers would act on it. Law enforcers would act on it. But if all of that is broken, then young people, folks, progressive folks who think that you must do something, feel that the only alternative is to go on the street and demonstrate. And even in that, right? Because you have a state that hasn't cultivated a habit of listening, even that is not very impressive to it. It is concerned to the extent that, we might lose votes. Not because, these people are so, about it and we have to do something about it. So the vote thing becomes a mechanism of we have to counter. That is why the responses to it is so deep in PR and propaganda. That we must convince you that, no, things are working. No, you have no reason to be on the street. No, those who are going on the street are only self-interested and attention seekers. So there's a lot of media industry that is pumped into telling you that it is not true what they are saying. And they have no reason to be on the street. Because what we are focused about is not, dealing with the problem as it is. And that's what creates, the kind of frustration that so many of us feel. And then at the end of the day, we are only human. We begin to internalize that, well, we did it, nothing changed. Nothing will change again. So give up. And the subliminal messaging of what they're doing is consistently to convince you to give up. And that's what we are really used to.
Do you see more and more people giving up, or more and more people getting even angrier and saying we will not be cowed into giving up? How do you read it?
I teach a constitutional law class. I would say that 99% of law students I'm teaching want to leave the country.
They want to leave the country?
Yes, microcosm of, those who, even there's a society in which lawyers are elites system, right? That young lawyers who are coming up want to leave the country. I don't even want to talk about those who are economically disenfranchised, who don't have opportunity for education and things like that. That the response then of a desesperated people is to, I want to check out. And that's frustrating, because it's frustrating in many levels. For so many people, even including myself, went to school abroad, lived abroad, worked in places. The feeling of wanting to be home never leaves you. So there's nobody who lives abroad and is happy. You want to be home, and your desire is that home will be as fixed as where you have found yourself. So ultimately, it's an unnatural living circumstances that you are forced into. But that's what people feel that they are left with. That, this is not my cross to bear. And in fact, those who have then decided to go and carry their cross, the system makes sure that it deals with them so much to be an example to others to look on. And I give an example where we went to a community to mobilize, and an old lady said, "Nah, what we are lawyer put near Chukodea Musa, na me here." That's where the system is winning, because by making the cost on those of us who dare to speak up so high, the others then will fall in line and realize that there's no worth fighting for.
How do we solve this? Because we have to keep fighting, and the odds that we are up against are so enormous. How do we keep doing it? What keeps you going?
It's the belief, and perhaps the foolish belief. I remember when Nkrumah was overthrown, one of the radio messages he recorded on Radio Guinea was talking about how the spirit of the Ghanaian would always, and he's lived that dream foolishly till he died, and we are here now, continuing to believe that maybe one day the Ghanaian would wake up. So we are all in that industry of hope and the prosperity message of the Ghanaian waking up. It's the only thing that's keeping us alive. The belief that one day more people will get the reason why
we're doing this. Is it a false belief? Because I'm sitting here, I do a show, and I say, it's nation time, let's build this nation. And I keep saying, Ghana will rise again. And I somehow, whether it's false, whether it's stupidity, I don't know what it is, but I believe that.
You know what? It does two things. One that it keeps us sane. Because if we didn't have that, we would lose our mind. You know what I mean? So for us, I think it's helpful for us to then, believe keeps us awake and keep going. And two, that we do find ourselves, right? Even if we haven't met in person, we recognize an intellectual colleague that affirms us and makes us believe that, okay, maybe I am not mad. That other people see what I'm seeing. And so that small growing crowd of voices that are listening, that are doing this, makes us keep on the hope that it can expand beyond ourselves. And I think that's useful in the ultimate long run, I think.
So folks, let's keep hope alive, man. That's all we can do. Not just alive, but let's make sure that what we're hoping for, we can actively bring it up, I've read a few things. I know you've not been very thrilled with should I say the hype of oral? And what's happening on the ground? What's your take on that?
I sincerely believe, and from all I've said now, it leads naturally there, that the only way in which we can fix this republic comes with elite discipline. And elite discipline, particularly about those who plunder. That we must show them that the face of this country does not condone, does not accept this. And that's the only way we can stem the hemorrhage. So oral for me was the kind of messaging that spoke directly to my heart, and that belief that, persons who do this will have their comeuppance. And then we were seeing that fortune, filter away, and people then beginning to see that, well, maybe we're taking for a ride again. And there's nothing more dangerous to the Fourth Republic's own sustenance, but this belief that this is it. And how many times I've heard people say, this is the only opportunity. If we lose oral, this is it. Because people genuinely believe that for once, the political actors were speaking the language that diagnosed what the problem was. And were telling us that they were committed to doing this.
We'll launch an Operation Recover All the Loot to investigate, prosecute, and recover the proceeds of corruption. To investigate, prosecute, and recover the proceeds of corruption, no person found culpable will be spared. But let me say that the sword of accountability will cut both ways, against both past and the present government.
Now, I am not necessarily saying that as far as Aura is concerned, that perhaps they were hoodwinking us or that they didn't believe it. But that perhaps they believe that they can get this done in the normal way of things, in letting the system run the way it runs. No, the system will discipline you. The system will show you that we are a system for a reason. So you have to be counter-grain actions that must be taken that would allow Aura to succeed. And I haven't seen the courage shown to take those counter-grain actions.
It's being approached as business as usual.
It's been approached as business as usual. I've heard, every time I've heard Attorney General speak, he's talking about, but we can't just arrest anybody. Nobody was saying that just go about and arrest anybody. We haven't seen any reform to the court system so far. Absolutely nothing. And every time I've talked about this, people said, but the Chief Justice is removed. I practice in the courts. I know that the judiciary and the way of doing of the judicial system is not just the lady at the top, right? So those reforms we haven't seen happen. In terms of if you brought a case to me as a lawyer, I might sweet talk you and make you that, yes, I'm going for justice for you because I need you to pay up. But I know that when I take that case to court, I'm going to be stuck there for 5 years and you'll be frustrated in the belief that, you want to get justice done. So I knew that going into the regular court system, bringing these cases, nothing but delay. That lawyers have also devised the means of keeping the politics of the Fourth Republic alive. By that I mean, if you bring a criminal case, they devise all kinds of technicalities that can keep a case going for 7 years. And that's what happened in the previous administration. The new Attorney General comes and says, well, these cases have been going on for 8 years or 7 years, 6 years. If you could convince them, you'd have, so I discontinue. Well, know that there are also other lawyers who are waiting for you to arrest new people and take you through those 6, 7 years as well. So we know what it is. We know the ways in which technicalities can be weaponized to stop this. And yet we did nothing about it. We know that in terms of one of the poorest aspects of our criminal justice system is the investigative system. Like take for instance a matter that happens in America and you're arrested. You have detectives, of course they will caution you if you're Miranda rights. Then they'll be asking you questions based on investigations they have done. If I take a client to the police station, the police bring a paper, write your statement. It's a very passive. I just tell my clients, I have nothing to say. When you have anything, I'll take you to court. So he was relying on your confession. He hasn't done any studio work, hasn't done anything. Before you're leaving, he's calling you to open me, mommy. So even in written to the investigative process is persons who are still asking for rent and bribes from those they are supposed to be investigating. So it is the least effective way to catch the elites that have been involved in. So knowing this means that you are coming in when you are saying oral, that you are aware of all of these things and you are going after that. You didn't go after any of those. You just kept telling us to believe. Well, of course people will lose hope. Or people will come to believe that either you don't know what you're dealing with or you are in on it. And ultimately people will come to believe that you are in on it.
It's quite interesting you say that. Soon after the election, the policeman pulled me over, Then he came and he started a conversation. Hey, guess what you're saying, So we started talking. Then the first thing he asked me, this aura thing, do you believe it? And I said, well, I do have the hope. And I said, well, he told me, well, among us there, we think it's just one of those things, So you're hitting on a thing.
Who are supposed to be the enforcing the aura, the police and others, that within them they don't believe that you're serious. And they haven't seen it change for them. They haven't seen anything in terms of police procedures, in terms of any attitude. There's no organized unit that is dealing with this. There's nothing.
You're a lawyer. If I have come to power and I want this aura and I don't want business as usual, how constitutional or legal is it for me to say, let's Kufo establish fast-track courts, to deal with cases? I know Chachu challenged it and I said there was some illegality with it, but how free are the courts to fast-track things and to up the game in this business as usual process?
So one of the ideas that were mooted even before the NDC came into power was the idea of the public tribunals. Because one of the things that the public tribunals did was that well, first of all, they were filled mainly with non-lawyers, so who didn't have the appetite for technicalities. If you've stolen, you've stolen. We can see this is the evidence. You're not coming to say that, well, you didn't record my confession well, but did you steal it? Yes, you stole it. So the public tribunals, the NDC had talked about reviving them because they understood that we have to circumvent the rule of lawyers, not the rule of law. And so that was one of the things that they haven't done, almost a year in. Secondly, as well, you have to do law reform. There are many jurisdictions that have come to understand that first you have to reverse the burden of proof. That we have to have unaccountable wealth regime or law. That if you see a property or things that you own, that you cannot account for it by means that can be demonstrated, we will seize it. So the burden then is on you to come and establish and show us how you made that money. So we haven't seen that kind of legislation come into place, and it's used everywhere, across the world in many democracies. I was hoping that you'd have one of the ways in which the US was able to dismantle in New Jersey the Italian mafias is the RICO law, the racketeering. So that ties in everything you are doing to a wider organizational setup. So anybody who takes money, the people who are the soup wall of you up. We haven't seen that happen. So even within the party structures, the RICO law can be able to dismantle some of the ways in which money is siphoned and then used to sponsor party activities and things like that. So that legislative reform also has not happened or materialized. Then, of course, even within the regular court system, yes, there has to be dedicated divisions. We can decide not to call it the fast-track court because that suggests as if you're creating a new thing. And that's one of Chachu's arguments, that you can't create a new court. But we have divisions of the court. That is, we have criminal divisions. So expand the criminal divisions. There are some that are doing the everyday go come, my wife beats me, my husband slapped me. You can't mix them up with that case. Because when you go before the judge says, well, my calendar for the whole of October and November is full. because I have Adramansa and Kodimo and all of that. So we call one. We do 1 hour cross-examination today. We wait 3 months later to do another one. Of course, 7 years will come up.
Yeah.
By the time we get to July, we have another 3 months legal vacation. We wait again. We come back again for another legal year, and that's how how the system grinds. Ultimately slow. So these are the purposeful things that I was hoping to see us implement with Wara that we haven't seen happen.
Let me find this from you, because you're a lawyer. Let's suppose that the president had come in and now they say we are going to go back to tribunals.
Yeah.
What do you think the Ghana Bar Association, what would their reaction be?
So one of the things, you see what I was talking about, the courage to do things against the grain. Don't expect applause from the system that the folks that this works for.
Don't expect applause.
Yeah, don't.
Do what you have to do.
You have to do what you have to do. So this is the challenge. If you're waiting to get, and I mean, historically as well, the bar for right or wrong has always been on the right side of Ghanaian politics. Meaning that, particularly when this administration is in power, the bar becomes more vocal for historical reasons. But that's fine. The bar wants things to be done in which the ways in which lawyers have cultivated a society for themselves. The bar is not interested in the fact that there are police extortions on the road every day against ordinary citizens. What it does, it creates bar stickers for its members. So when the police see you and the bar sticker there, they say, law.
Yeah.
Then you pass. So they have carved themselves out of those social problems. So they are not the first point of call when you're thinking of socially just system that resets things. They're not going to be the one. In fact, you should expect them to fight you the way it's wrong. And when you're picking fights with them, then you know that you're on the right path. I think.
Wow, interesting. Let me pick your views on this whole concept of plea bargaining.
Yeah.
I know in the US they have plea bargaining.
Yeah.
They've arrested you, they've done the investigation, they know that you know the mob who are doing crime. It's okay. Are you going to testify against certain people?
Yeah.
Yes, I will. Okay, I would have given you 10 years, so now I'll give you 1.
Yeah.
Is that what plea bargaining is supposed to be? Because what we are hearing is that in Ghana, let's say you have stolen 10 goats, and the plea bargain is okay. I sold 10 goats, but I've chopped 6, so I can return 4.
Yeah.
Is that? Give me your views. Are these the right direction we're going?
So this is what I think. I think that there's a way in which to administer the plea bargain system that is just. And by that I mean, the current way in which it functions is that when you take a person to court, their lawyers have to write to the Attorney General and then inform the court, and the court will give them 30 days to go and negotiate. The vast majority of people that come before the criminal justice system are unrepresented. So if you made it obligatory for every Adramansa who is charged with an offense to have a mandatory pre-bargaining system, for the Attorney General to make a proposal to them that this offense, you can go 10 years. Would you accept 5? And for which reason we don't go to court? It can free up the court system. I was hearing the Minister for Land saying that they have arrested 1,400 people in Galamsey.
When I tell you we have 1,400 arrests in 8 months, that's what it means. As opposed to 800 arrests in almost 3 years by our previous government.
If we are going to overflow the courts with those number of arrests, it's impossible to be able to deal with it. So if somebody is arrested, you can go for 7 years. We say we'll give you 3, and out of that 1,004, let's say 1,000 accept the plea and go. It means that the prosecutorial capacity must deal with only the 400, not the entirety of the 1,400. So we have that's an arrangement in which we can mainstream it, that is automatic, that we have to consider. If the person rejects, then we go to full trial. Then secondly, we must remove economic crimes against the state from a plea bargaining arrangement. Like for instance, you can't plea bargain murder in our case now. You can't plea bargain treason. Okay? So economic crimes against the state, we can remove them from the plea bargaining arrangement. And so that those who are in this case, not only are we prosecuting you, we are bringing civil cases against you to defend your wealth and where you have gotten your wealth to. We have then the unaccountable wealth regime that we are taking that you come and justify it for us and show us that you was able to acquire this through clean wealth, right? So if we have 3 measures coming at you, you're not even then going to say you're going to negotiate. But remind you that the danger of the plea bargaining system we have is that you then have the corrupt elite negotiating with themselves and deciding that, okay, this one, you bring this. I'm not even going to seek for any custodial sentence. We just agree and you go. of course, they are going to make use of it, and they then, don't care about the larger population. So my thinking is that it's more about the reform and what we decide that it doesn't apply to than just the general idea of the plea bargain. But like we said, it exists in the US, and there's a cultural deficit that makes even the plea bargain scary, and from what a lot of people say, is the fact that we know for a fact that we can't trust our public officials to act with integrity. That's where the problem is. So that we know that we want to give them that as a weapon in their hands, they misuse it. Whether it's the police prosecutor level, they tell you that come and give me money and then I can drop it down for you. Things that they are already doing without the backing of law. So that's the problem, right? Or let's say even if you had a parole system in the prisons, the prison officers will say, okay, for me to put your name inside, come and pay me money. Every attempt to implement law and create new, innovative ways to deal with a system, then our Ghanaianness takes over. Things that we have allowed to foster.
I like that. Our Ghanaianness.
Yes.
We are looking for loopholes.
Yes, we are constantly looking for loopholes to go against, systems that are supposed to work. So those things make it almost all the way frustrating. That if you seriously then want to implement, like we're talking about oral, then you know that, listen, there's no friends to be made. There are certain, we can take young people who create a sense of belief in them that, you don't look at the elites, we're going to take care of you. Go, you have the backing of the Republic, of the President, this specialized unit of people. And I say young people because older folks tend to be jaded. You have done it, you've given your due. Young people tend to be more idealistic and believing in change and all those ideas. That at the end of the day, they can then be incentivized to want to do these things. But you must constantly also watch the watchman, right? Like nowhere in the world, you always have undercover people who are among you. You send people as agents to go and deal with Galamsey. The next thing we are hearing is that they are extorting people in Galamsey side. So you are telling me that in that unit, there's not one person whose job is to snitch on the others and who has been added without the others knowing, to be able to gather intelligence and tell them these are the officers who were doing this. We didn't have one. We don't prepare a contingency for the ways in which we expect people to misbehave. I find that, unintentional in terms of how we govern.
Based on everything you said, and the approach which looks right now as business as usual, is oral in trouble? If nothing drastic can be done in terms of what people were expecting, and it's going to go like the way it's going, is oral in trouble? Or what do you think?
No, I think that it is. The current president has 4 years. We're almost at the end of one. 3 more. Now, at the pace at which things have gone, if we were to go at that pace, then we can very well say that oral is dead.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge you have. 2, so much critical time was lost, or has been lost. So many people have dissipated wealth. People have moved money into Barbados and all kinds of things. They have changed them into gold. Our ability to track illicit wealth was already low. And now with that disadvantage of time, it means that the possibility to do this is even fleeting and perhaps lost in many respects. So that's the challenge. So the best I can say for us to do is those reforms and say that, okay, we're going to prioritize those reforms. And at this point, we are doing so in the expectation that when the next government comes, they're doing so and hitting the ground running. Our failure to hit the ground running means that we have lost a lot of momentum. But like I said, I'm a perpetual optimist and believing that, we can still find our way around and get this on track.
Wow. Very, very educative indeed. I'm learning a lot. Man. Oliver.
Yeah.
Was it true that once upon a time you wanted to stage a coup? I know it's a long issue, dead issue.
But before I'm interested in I do want to talk though about your influence on me.
My influence on you?
Because I've talked about this, I've written about this. I've written about this so many times. That is, I was a young boy growing up in Akuse. And, around where I lived, so many people, we all went to, public school. I was lucky enough to grow up in a family where I was constantly being forced to read. So I was a voracious reader. I was interested in politics. I was almost different from my social environment. And there were 2 people who were key influences on me. 3 people were key influences on me. Kwaku Bakum, Nana Akufo-Addo and yourself. These were persons who I felt, one, because I've always been witty, and I haven't seen that kind of wit displayed in traditional comedy at the time. A lot of it was in Komode, Bobokala, that type. It didn't really resonate with me. So your stand-up comedy did resonate with me because it was cerebral. And I felt that, okay, everybody tells me I'm funny, so maybe this is the path for me. You know, so I always looked up to you. I've always convinced myself that, that was one of the paths that I was always going to take. The next was Kukuba, journalism. His work in standing up to Rollins at the time, I felt like this is what the person ought to be doing. I remember how happy I was when he won Journalist of the Year. Rollins was losing his mind. These were things that I was growing up with. And then, of course, Akufo-Addo, you know, the protests he led, what was talked about him, his belief in social justice. So these were my main idols, you know. And then I grew up, and I've talked about how I've grown up disappointed in Kukuba and his flirtations with partisan politics. I ended up becoming enemy numero uno for Akufo-Addo. So you're all I have, man. So if you disappoint me, I'm dead. You know, so those were the idols I grew up with.
All you have?
You're all I have at this time. but it's refreshing to me that you stayed authentic, I must say. I've watched so many of your interviews and the people you bring on, that you have consistently kept a moral sense of clarity about. They've always said you shouldn't meet your idols, right? But even before meeting in person, I've kind of grown up now and then met you, seeing you stay, even as you have moved on from the art form of stand-up comedy and doing other things. It has stayed consistent, you know? And I'm very appreciative of that. And I really like that.
Well, so now to my question. Did you almost hit a coup?
So there's a good segue for that question. Because when we started doing what we were doing, the government then convinced itself that we were interested in regime change, you know, violent regime change. And it was almost farcical to me, you know, that, you know, I was never seen a gun or held a gun before. And so many young people who were nowhere near the army were being accused of wanting to overthrow the government. So I then decided to be satirical about it. So I would write posts and say, Mami coup, 2 cedi, Gary 1 cedi. So it was always mocking it. You know, I was mocking the system. And so I was creating absurdity of it all the time. So I wrote a lot of these posts. And the absurdity that the government would try to run away from scrutiny by hiding around the idea that we're trying to do coup seemed to me infantile. And coup was being instrumentalized as a scarecrow. And so that's what it became consistently. Anytime the government would do something, I'll write some funny take about, if I was ready, I would have already done the coup already. And that's what it is. So that I wrote that I would do the coup myself. And the government knew that this has been consistently what I'm saying. Or that the coup happened in Guinea, and I'll write, I welcome the coup in Guinea. And I'll see government officials in my inbox, what are you talking about? I'm saying, but I am talking about Guinea. And already I could smell their fear about it. And I became interested in the idea that, so all the things we're doing, they didn't really seem to care. But when it threatened their hold on power, they were worried about. So I mocked them more as a tease would, right? And so, I mean, and I hope that perhaps that's what you are, that I think the persons who find comedy in many things enjoy the art of the tease. So for me, it became that, the art of teasing the system consistently. And of course, they have power. They do with power what they want to do with power. And they chose that incident, but they could have chosen anything. As we saw subsequently, they chose me driving and said, failure to observe road marking, where there was no road marking. They could create anything, you know. But they chose that for themselves. And they were entitled to. I don't think I'm the kind of person that would survive.
I was really wondering, for real? You believe that he's ready to throw? You know what I mean?
I mean, so many people saw the mockery out of it. But they went out of their way to sell it. Even in terms of last, Stop Galamsey protest that we did, that they arrested us, they actually convened a meeting of journalists where they told journalists that they have evidence that I'm being sponsored by Russians. Completely made up, yes. And these were senior journalists in this country who had a meeting with the Ghana Police Service, Interior, Attorney General, where this one was being pushed up. Thankfully, a number of them took them on in that meeting, and eventually we came to find out that these were the kind of messaging that they were putting out. So what we are up against, I mean, we laugh about it when we talk, but there are people who are invested in making sure that the status quo remains and will go out of their way to make sure. And that's one of the things perhaps I was naive about. I was naive about it in the sense that I believe that, yeah, of course this is a democracy. Of course our laws will protect us and things like that. And so, because in many respects, when I was in Ghana, I never came of age in terms of becoming more vocal and pushing back against the system. I developed that in the US, in graduate school in the US, and leading protests and things like that. But I was coming to a different social environment where people wielded power and made no apology to offend. They breached the law and there was no consequences for it. So, because that social reality had not dawned on me, I did so many things out of naivete in believing that, maybe things will be fine, people will be fine. But at some point then it became a crusade for me in realizing that, things were worse than I thought they were. But if they are this bad, then it's not a reason to cower. Because so many people tell me, this government is so vindictive, so you have to keep quiet.
Yeah.
And I say to them, no, the more vindictive the government is, the more we have to fight back against it.
Yeah.
So that's what it became for me. That because you're trying to destroy something that should be beautiful, we must fight against you more.
Yeah.
So while I was held, my passport seized, and I was kept here, I was like, okay, give me more reason to mobilize people and continue to protest against you. And that's what I eventually ended up doing. Yeah.
And so gave you, like, somewhat reshaped you because you came out and you realized the extent of the rot.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely. I became quite... I understood the lengths at which they would go, and perhaps for so many of us who came of age in the Fourth Republic, we have been sold the Kool-Aid that you're a democracy. At least when you didn't have a democracy, then you have the support of the world, where it's like, okay, it's a military regime, so therefore it's a shortcut to violation of rights, and for which reason you find more international solidarity for the things you say against the government and things like that. But when you have, something like Ghana, for instance, everybody says across Africa, everybody says, this is a democracy. But it's also a democracy in a facade, right? It's almost like it's wearing a mask over there's no abuse that our elites cannot get away with in Ghana. If you take even what happened to Bongo ideas, that somebody can be kidnapped and, beaten and left somewhere on the road, you would think that these are things that do not happen in democracy. But there's not a single thing I don't think that our elites can get away with. So I don't really see it. It exists in rhetoric. It exists that it allows us to comfort ourselves and sustain the legitimacy of the system. But when it's cracked beneath the surface and in fact come against interests that be like, okay, you're going too far, they'll remind you and show you that you're actually going too far.
They'll show, Ghanaians will say, they show where power lies.
They show you where power lies, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. Have you learned anything from where power lies or has made you more defiant?
What I think I have learned the most from this is to be willing to forgive and let go. Because if I harbored the pain of so many things that happened to me and experiences I went through, the fears I inhabited, my family, the fact that for so long I couldn't even rent a place, I was hiring short-term rentals from place to place because I was uncomfortable with people, the government knowing where I lived, the fact that people constantly followed me. If I kept that, I don't think I can function. So
how do you exercise that from you? Does it not keep haunting you?
No, from time to time it comes back. I mean, you can't get away with it. But the human mind has an amazing capacity to heal. If you let it, if you get out of its way, it will find you. And also being fixated on certain things. I find that a lot of the times people who are going through the most trials are able to find peace in, say, religion. I lost religion many years ago. That I find it in principles and believe that good will come out of this and that there's a purpose to what we're doing and all of those things. Those things make me want to keep trying and keep staying, and I need to be there for the long haul.
And I know you're trying to forget and move on. Yeah. What one or two things that you think you're happy with yourself for having let go, that if you had it, it would have traumatized you for longer?
Mufa, the previous government kept me in cells at Ashaman and planted an individual with a knife in the cells and poisoned bread in the cells. Now, it may sound like movie, but we sued the government, and the government admitted to the facts in court.
That they gave him a knife?
They said that, they only put somebody there undercover to keep watch on me within the cell. They planted somebody in there. And the reason why we know this is that the day the incident, I was in there, a gentleman was brought in, and I looked at the demeanor of the individual, and I told the other cell guys that I think this guy is national security. Now, the good thing for me is that, I'm not biblical, but, when you look at the story of, I think Daniel, who then was protected with the lion. Once I got in there, these persons who wanted to rough me off and show me where power lies, found out that I was a lawyer, and everybody wanted to come to me and tell me their problems and how you can help them and things like that. So then they gave me a place to stay, to sleep, because the leaders keep for themselves half of the cell, and then the rest are pushed and packed like sardine to the other last half, and some in the bathroom.
Who decides who the leader is?
Those who have been there for long, and those who are. Sometimes there can be a coup in there, where like a big tough guy comes and then beats up and deposes you. And so he had his own, and he has his enforcers as well. So they made me stay with the leaders, and where I was sleeping. And so when the guy came, I told one of the guys. So they were like, nah, they were not sure. So they went to question the guy, and the guy says, I am an importer, and some lost my money, and then I couldn't go to the bank, and so the police have arrested me. Some cocked and bull. But so they came to tell me that no, it's not true, But I knew it was true. But again, these are their cell. You have to be mindful of challenging them in their cell. So I just kind of let it fly. Then after a while, one of the police officers brought bread to be handed over to the guy who was in the cell. One of the things they did for me at least is that when the guy came in, usually they will ask you to pay money. If you pay money, you join where the cell leaders are. If you don't pay, they put you in the they had a name for it that I'm trying to remember. It's not coming. It's almost like the zongo of the prison. Cell. So you are packed in there with the others. So they put him there. So when the food comes, the cell leader will take it and go and give to them. So I was even sleeping. It was late in the night. So when they brought it, the guy was taking it to him, somebody has brought you bread. And something said he should press down on it. Then he felt something hard in it. So then they opened it, and then they saw the jackknife, and then they saw a phone in there. And so then they pull, then they come, and then I'm sleeping, I keep hearing the guys shouting, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. So one of them comes and tells me that what I said is actually true. Look at what these people have done. So then they pull the guy up, they start beating up the guy in the cell to confess. They said this thing. Now they decide that they will force him to eat the bread because they don't understand the bread. So that's where the real fight starts. The guy refuses consistently to eat the bread. So no matter what they do, the guy does not eat the bread. That's when they realize, so as they bring him up, he removes something from his ear and throws. They search the bathroom. We have no light in there. They search and say they couldn't find what it is. But what we did, and all I asked them for, was that I took the SIM card from the phone, because I knew that if I came out and said this, it would sound like a movie. Nobody would believe. So I took the SIM card and I took the SIM tray, and I was wearing, because I was coming from the UK when I was arrested, so I was wearing one of those warmers under my pants. So it was a long one, it's all I had, so they couldn't take it from me. And so the bottom of it, I cut the bottom, and then I pushed the SIM and this thing there. And eventually, I managed to convince the guy in the cell to destroy the phone. Some of them were talking about how we can call our brother to come so that they give him the phone to go and sell. These are low-level petty thieves. And I'm saying, no, this is a national security phone. They're just going to put somebody else in trouble. So they destroyed the phone, and the knife, I don't know what they did with it. I didn't bother to ask. And what they did was that there are rubbish in the cells that they come for around 4 a.m. So they broke everything up and put it in the rubbish bin. So at 4 a.m., the police themselves came from the rubbish out. They know that they're taking the things out. Then at some point, almost like 5 a.m., they come to try to retrieve the guy. So when they come and retrieve him out, he goes, of course, and debriefs them and realize what has happened, and realize that knife has fallen into the hands of these guys. So about 15 of them, heavily armed, come into the cell, ransack the cell, push us all into a corner, and they can't say what it is they're looking for, but they're searching.
Wow.
Patting everybody there. But I'm quiet and I'm just looking at them. They
You
do
know
this.
what's
Eventually,
going on. Yeah.
they arrest all the cell leaders and take them up. And from downstairs, we can hear the beatings from the commander, because the commander's office is upstairs from them. Eventually, they go collect the rubbish to try to retrieve the items from them. And when we sued the police and attorney general over this, they come to court and admit that they did put somebody in the cells. You know? So that I can't fathom what their intention was. Whether it was to create a narrative that fight broke out in the cell or what happened, I have absolutely no idea. So I'm amazed to the lengths at which we would go.
That is amazing.
The other incident that sticks out to me is when, we go up for my bail application. The Inspector General of Police goes to see, comes to Tema. I was going to Tema High Court. There were 2 Tema High Court judges, 2 A and B. One of them was the Domahine. And when my bail application came there, immediately Domahine sent people from his registry, from his court officials, to go and make sure that it's assigned to him, which is what happened. So by the time he comes, the other judge, Akuma, who they had wanted my matter to go to, doesn't get it. So the IGP goes and sees the guy, but they can't, it's with another judge. You can't take it away from him without any issues. The day that Mahini granted me bail, people were jubilating there, and he talked about how if only we knew the amount of pressure that was brought to bear on him, not to grant me bail. And that also made it clear to me that the system, our judiciary is only judiciary for show, because the system can't decide to do these things, But what happened to him? Because he granted me bail, and for the comments he made that if you know the amount of pressure that was brought on me to bear, they tried to remove him. This impeachment process with the Chief Justice, he went through an impeachment process. They said that nobody knew because everything was kept in camera. I only found out that because of me, he was put through this, because when I was invited before Parliament, Nana Tudazi was the one representing me, and Nana Tudazi was his lawyer, and who then told me, in fact, of what he had to go through for giving me bail.
Wow.
So these are things that happen within our system. That for me has made it me aware of what it is we are up against and what we're facing.
Wow. Have you had any client that you were representing that you had to sort of educate for them to understand that these things can happen?
Oh, absolutely. It was one of the reasons why, I had no intention, in fact, of creating a law firm in Ghana. But after my experiences and what I went through, I decided that I wanted to be part of a reform culture of the legal profession. And that people that, we can take in young lawyers. And we're very particular, all the people we bring on are fresh from law school because we want to create a particular kind of culture. The firm is in its, we're going into our 2nd year of being in existence. After the first crop of people we took, this year 2 of them made it to Harvard and have been admitted. First 2 people working in the same law firm, both recommended by me, were admitted into Harvard. It tells me that we're on the right path and what we're trying to do that is working. So I am very committed to that project of creating a different, legal professionals.
And what's the name of your law firm?
It's Merton and Everett. Everybody laughs at me that our firm is called Merton and Everett, and it's not very African. But
why Merton and Everett?
Because my partner went to Oxford.
Okay.
My founding partner. And he lived on Merton Street. And when I was at Harvard, I lived on Everett Street. So we used the street names and became Merton and Everett. But also because we wanted to create something which was depersonalized from ourselves. And we wanted something to represent it. And that's how that came about.
Okay. So all of you watching now, when you hear Merton Everett.
Yes.
That's your law firm.
Yes.
Solid.
Then I'm proud of the work we've done within. We have had tremendous growth. Even the fact that, there are businesses that weren't doing work with us because you were an enemy of the government. Even the fact that the government was...
I was going to ask you that. How is that affecting you now?
Yeah. The truth is that, there were businesses that wouldn't do work with us because they don't want any problem with the government. But there are also 2 things that were keeping us afloat. One, that international clients actually like that. They are very big on social justice and things like that. So we're able to do with a lot of international clients. And also so many people within Ghana who support our advocacy. Their form of showing support is to confide cases in us. And then finally as well, thank God that we're able to bring on some of the brightest as well to the firm. So sometimes people go to other lawyers with complicated cases that some of the lawyers refer them to us, or that they go and hit a wall, and then we then become the complicated firm of complex cases. You know.
Wow. Show some love, man. Oh my goodness, Oliver! I wish I could have another or three with you, but you have to come back. This is the first one-on-one like this. I've done a couple of interviews on Zoom.
Yeah, but it's not the most natural, I would say.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh wow. And to hear that I was one of his influencers, man, I've got to revise my CV. I'm going to come up with a new CV and put a whole...
No, you flatter me. Yeah.
No, you've done very well, and thank you. And
I think I met, I don't know what I mentioned, I think I met must be a niece of yours, a friend Kitia or something, I think in DC.
Yeah.
That I told that, man, you have no idea how much I admire this man. Like, I grew up in the shadow, so it's a real pleasure for me to be here. And perhaps, of course, you wouldn't know that somewhere in Akuse, I don't know how many times you've been there, if ever, there was a young boy who was growing up, who was looking at this man and thinking to myself,
interesting
this is
to know.
exactly what I want for myself. So I'm very happy, And maybe at the end of the day, even for those who are disappointed me, I ended up, embodying all elements of the three, I like to believe, somehow, Yeah.
And also, by the way, I noticed you said that, I started with the theater and the comedy, and then maybe I've switched. No, you can't switch. So let me take this occasion to announce to all of you that I have a show coming up at Cactus Creek.
Okay.
And it's going to be sometime in December.
Okay.
And the title of the show, I don't know yet, but it's going to be 69 and Still Rocking.
So I'll be there. I'll definitely be there.
I'm sure you're in the front row.
Opportunity to watch you in person. And in those days, like you read about it, you hear it on the radio.
Yeah.
You catch snippets of it on GTV.
Yeah.
I can remember like light of the day when you were telling, I think Rollins and somebody shake hands. Rollins and Kufuor shake hands.
Oh wow!
I remember it. I'm telling you, like I was a fanatic. So yeah, but I never got to see you in person. So
wow!
Hopefully in December I'll have the opportunity.
Yes, please do. December, I'll let you.
Okay.
And I'm letting all of you Ghanaians, man, actually.
I love
that. Geez, Larando. Yeah.
I love that.
So, well, thank you very much
thank you as well
for this interview. I've really, really, really enjoyed the conversation.
Same here.
And I've learned a lot, and so have my viewers and our viewers who are watching both in Ghana and abroad online. This has been really, really tough. So
thank you.
Fantastic. Ofori-Atta, y'all. Oliver, thank you so much. And
thank you. Appreciate it.
We'll do this again.
Thank you.
All
thank
right.
you again.
Pleasure, man.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Folks, until we come back again with another episode of Unfiltered, KSM signing off and saying, see you later.